Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics. First, the highlights. President-elect Bola Tinubu expected in the country today. Party supporters of the All Progressives Congress and leaders of the party make their way to the airport to receive him. The Republic of Sudan boils again following fresh crisis in the country. Nigerian students among other nationals trapped. And the challenge of evacuating students in Sudan remains a big issue, as Nigerian government advises citizens and residents there to remain indoors until help comes. Plus, ahead of Edo State governorship election, group urges all parties to zone governorship ticket to SR land. A warm welcome to the program. Here are the stories we are monitoring this lunch hour. I'm Millicent Walker. Now, ahead of his inauguration, May 29, the President-elect Bola Tinubu is expected back in the country today, according to the Director, Media and Publicity of the Tinubu Shetima campaign, Mr. Bayo Onanuga. Senator Tinubu has been away from the country for about a month, soon after the presidential election. Mr. Onanuga explained in a tweet that Senator Tinubu is returning home after a vacation in France. Key party leaders, including members of the party's National Working Committee, led by the national chairman, Mr. Abdullahi Adamu, are expected at the airport to receive him. The secretary of the APC's Presidential Campaign Council and a member of the House of Representatives, Mr. James Faleke, had earlier noted in a tweet also that the president-elect, alongside his wife, Remi Tinubu, would land by 2 p.m. at the presidential wing of the International Airport, Abuja. To all the stories now, the federal government is asking Nigerian students in Sudan to remain indoors while it continues making arrangements for their safe evacuation from the troubled country. A statement from the Nigerian embassy in Khartoum, signed by the Chargé d'Affaires, H.Y. Garko, advised students to disregard the notice circulated by the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, in Sudan, calling on students to converge at the African International University, NANS office, and El Razi University for evacuation, or to bring $100 or $200 for evacuation. The government says it was still dangerous to embark on a journey toward the borders of Sudan without security clearance and guarantee from the Sudanese authorities. Meanwhile, the federal government has given its commitment to evacuating Nigerians living in Sudan in the midst of the ongoing violent clashes in the country. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Jeffrey Onyema, gave the assurance while speaking on our political program, Sunday Politics. According to him, efforts are in top gear to bring the Nigerians back home in a matter of days.
All the agencies of government are working at the moment, including NEMA, the emergency agency, and you know, they're being contacted to find what the needs are, you know, before evacuation. You know, what immediate needs there might be, and how to get it through to them. But as I said, you know, we're hoping that in the next day or two we can start. You know, we'd have got the approval from the Sudanese government to start moving people out. You know, our embassies in Egypt, I was in touch with our ambassador in Egypt, also because Egypt is a country that's particularly close to Sudan, you know, to also help to facilitate for this corridor, and also for their reception when they, you know, arrive there, their upkeep and so forth. The ideal at the moment, what we've told people, is to stay where you are. You know, you don't want to, because it's an unpredictable situation. You don't want to be going, you know, long distances far from where you are domiciled. But obviously, we have a pickup point that has been, I think, you know, that will be communicated to everybody once we, you know, once we've decided that 0 hour has reached when we should commence evacuation.
Well, we'll be finding out more about the evacuation of students from Sudan as well as other residents shortly. But staying with Sudan, the UK government has insisted it's doing all it can to help British nationals stuck in Sudan after diplomats and their families were rescued yesterday. Fighting between two opposing forces has seen deadly shooting and shelling in the country's capital, Khartoum, for a week. As fighting in Sudan continues well into its second week, foreign countries started evacuation efforts for their diplomats and citizens last weekend. Here's a brief look at what's happened so far. The US, Canada and the UK announced on Sunday they had flown diplomats out of the country. French President Emmanuel Macron confirmed that evacuations took place on Sunday and Monday, getting 388 citizens and diplomats out of Sudan. A handful of Dutch citizens also left Khartoum on the French planes. Germany's army said the first 3 planes had left Sudan bound for Jordan with 101 people on board. Italy and Spain have evacuated citizens. The Spanish mission included citizens from Argentina, Colombia, Ireland, Portugal, Poland, Mexico, Venezuela, and Sudan as well. Turkey, a key player in Sudan, gathered 640 people in 13 buses to evacuate them by road. 500 others were gathered in an evacuation point. The mission included citizens from Azerbaijan, Japan, China, Mexico, and Yemen. Now, more than 1,000 European Union citizens have been evacuated as well. The bloc's foreign policy chief, Josep Borrell, said today, especially thanking France for the operation. And more than 150 people, mostly citizens of Gulf countries, as well as Egypt, Pakistan and Canada, have been evacuated by sea to the Saudi Arabian port of Jeddah. Foreigners who are stranded in Sudan are calling the situation a nightmare for those left behind in the country. Let's now find out how close students and other Nigerians are to coming home from Sudan. Joining us is the chairman, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, Mr. Dabiri Erewa. Thank you for joining us. He joins us virtually. Talk to us. How soon are students coming back home from Sudan?
Thank you, Millicent. Actually, discuss what we're doing right now in Sudan to really attend to you. Right now, there's been tremendous progress. There's now a point of contact for every student. Now they're converging at a location that has been given to them by the mission, and buses will take them to a location. We're looking at places in Egypt, Luxor and some other place there. So really, there's been tremendous progress. Buses have been arranged. Mr. President has given his nod. Immediately this happened. So there's not now the issue of those students that you mentioned that gathered together, took a bus somewhere. Now here's the thing: they've all had to go back to their universities because it was very risky of them. Just imagine in a war situation, you just see 20 buses moving without any permission from the military authorities. Will endanger their lives. So that is why they've had to return back to, well, I don't know, I hope you're still seeing me here.
Yes, we can see you and we can hear you. You were talking about, the mixed information about conflicting messages, asking students to come out to a certain point, and then I think the embassy coming out to counter that and saying that it isn't safe. Oh dear, I think we've lost her. We're going to try to reestablish that, talking to us about some of the gains she says is being made to get the Nigerian students from Sudan. But we also understand that Nigeria's domestic airline Air Peace has expressed willingness and readiness to evacuate Nigerians trapped in the North African country, Sudan. The management of the airline volunteers and saying to do this for free, according to the chairman of Air Peace, Mr. Alan Onyema. Says this is due to the dire need to help Nigerians in Sudan, most of them students. He says the commitment to step up to the rescue is because Nigeria cannot afford to lose her citizens in the troubled country. He maintains that everything must not be left to government, hence his intervention, especially as there's no end in sight to the crisis. I'm told that Mrs. Dabiri has since joined us. Hello, ma'am.
Yes, Millicent. Sorry, I lost you. I don't know where I lost you.
You were talking about where the students were leaving with a message, and then the embassy saying that it wasn't safe and they should head back.
Yes. So the nuns, which I understand, came up with this thing that pay $100, come somewhere. But the thing is, move to where? So there's no point taking you from danger to another danger. And there were some people that were leaving that actually had to turn back because they would have been killed. So now they've returned to their various campuses, and the Nigerian mission has now communicated to them a point of connection where the buses will convey them to the most likely places will be some borders in Egypt. And from there, they will now be transported back home via some airlines. So that is the situation now. And I'm sure in a couple of hours, we hope to get them moving from that place. So the key thing here is that, yes, we need to ensure that they are safe. There's no point putting them in danger while moving. And you cannot move without the permission of the two sides of the military. And that the Nigerian mission has been able to secure. And then the buses have also been arranged and will take the students. And you know, we have a large number of students, as the minister himself said yesterday, that we all need to convey back home. So yes, there's been tremendous progress in this regard. I really look forward to welcoming them back home.
So clarify to us the number of students who are being evacuated and also the number of non-students.
Well, our priority first are the students. So there's a list of the students with their institutions, with their phone numbers, and it runs into thousands actually. Now, can I tell you something? I'm almost, if I say this, you think we have about 5 million Nigerians in Sudan. Half of the population of Sudan are Nigerians. And we've almost said it, it's just that this diaspora thing, every time you talk about UK, US, we have a lot of them on the African continent. And in Sudan, I'm telling you, they make up almost 5 million in the Sudan because a lot of them migrated and ended up staying there, and they are Nigerians. So the priority now are the students. The students have written their names with the missions, both in Khartoum, in Cairo, in Ethiopia. I've been working with the Students Association. So the first thing, let's get the students back. And then every other person that wants to come, there is the contact point, but we have to start by one flight, second flight. Yes, Air Peace has made an offer. So it's also the military option of getting the C-130 to go to as many places as possible. But the question is to where? I think that is the first thing. To where? Definitely not Khartoum. So Cairo, Ethiopia, where in Ethiopia, what are the logistics? Those are things that are being put in place now. But the key thing is getting them out by buses. And that is the only way out. When some people tell me America came and took a helicopter, please, let's be realistic. Let us be realistic about what we're talking about here. So the safety is of paramount importance. A lot of effort has gone into it, and they will be back by the grace of God.
Indeed, but just, before we lost you, we sort of read a long list of the number of people, other citizens of other countries who have evacuated, their citizens from Sudan. And many have talked about the slow pace of the Nigerian government to taking the students out of Sudan.
Well, I agree with you. It could have been faster. It could have been faster, but the key thing is let's also ensure that it's safer. Let's also ensure that no life is jeopardized. I agree with you absolutely. It could have been faster. Definitely it could have been faster. But the initial challenges, immediately the war broke out, you cannot fly an airplane. And then those countries you're talking about, can you list them again? UK, US, France, Netherlands? They are part of the war in Sudan anyway. US and all those people, they are part of what is going on in Sudan. You see what I'm saying? So yes, but the key thing is, are you talking about peace or talking about safety? Then how many people are we talking about? America can, in fact, the British nationals are complaining that they've been left behind. We cannot just take our diplomats and leave our citizens behind. And can I tell you something? When some Qataris and French people were leaving yesterday, they turned back to Khartoum. So you see, you only hear one side of the story, not the other side of the story. We're dealing with thousands. We have the largest numbers of students that need to be evacuated. Do you want us to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and just send one little plane? We can't do that. But the thing is, no matter when they leave, let them be safe, let them get out of there, let them reunite with their families, and then we take it from there. So I think you're making unfair comparisons. But yes, you could say it could have been faster. Well, maybe yes, maybe not, but I know that the missions in Sudan, in Cairo, in Ethiopia have been working 24/7 to get this thing out of the way. And when you say whatever, nobody knew the war was going to break out. Even the people there were not expecting the war would break out. You keep hoping against hope. That's not going to happen. But here is what it is, Millicent. Let us ensure that we get them out. Maybe yes, maybe not. But right now, they are all living, and they will live safely. We've evacuated several times before. There are challenges to evacuation, mostly because we are dealing with large numbers. You know, the largest anywhere. So we'll do everything. The missions are all on track. Despite the challenges they have the challenges of funding and everything, but I believe the president has given instructions on that. So NEMA is responsible for evacuation, and they've pulled all the stops. Like I said, the military is also on standby. Well, maybe Air Peace is on standby, the military is on standby, NEMA is on standby, but the key is getting them down safely, taking them to a location, and transporting them back home.
We know you have a lot of work ahead of you. We're looking forward to the good news. Thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you, Millicent. Thank you.
Still ahead on the program, we have more on the situation in the Northeast African country. Plus, Okigwe leaders pass vote of confidence on Hope Uzodinma. Please stay with us. Welcome back. For more on the plight of Nigerians in Sudan, we're now being joined by President of the Nigerian Students in Diaspora, Abdulrazak Abubakar. Thank you for joining us. What are you learning of the safety of Nigerian students in Sudan? We spoke to the President of the National Association of Nigerian Students in Sudan. He agreed to speak with us today, but his lines, as well as some other students, are unreachable now. Are you able to get in touch with them?
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me on the show. I've tried to reach out. I spoke with the president of Nigerian students in Sudan yesterday, and there's a problem actually, because the students in Sudan are trying self-evacuation, of which I have told them that none of them should move without the instruction from the federal government of Nigeria, without the directives from the embassy there in Sudan. Because now the problem the students are having is they are under pressure. They don't want to sit in their house and they get bombs or gunshots until one of them becomes a victim before they get evacuated from Sudan. So I've given them an instruction, none of them should move. But unfortunately today, I've been trying to reach out to them and all these executives, and none of them are reachable at the moment.
So there is possibility that some students are really trying to find their own way out through land borders and other means.
Yes, because there's a circulation from the students, which I read, demanding that each of them should gather in a specific place and demanding for $100 each. But I have told them, like I said none of them should make a move until the federal government of Nigeria has given a directive, because I've also been in touch with the Nigerian embassy there in Sudan, of which I spoke to the consular in charge of education and also the secretary to the ambassador. They have all assured us that the government is doing everything within their reach as soon as there's a ceasefire to move them to a safer place. So I've given them instruction not to move, and then also we appeal to the government for a swift response while thanking them also for what they've done so far.
And finally, what are other Nigerians in diaspora, and you as a group? What are you learning about this situation in Sudan, and also ways that students can stay safe when there's situations like this?
I think the first thing you do as a student, whenever issues like this occur, you run to your embassy, seek guidance from your embassy. Do not make a move. I'll give you an instance. Let's say, for example, the Nigerian government now decides to evacuate our students this moment, and it requires them to gather in a specific place. What if they are nowhere to be found? How will they be evacuated? So I think at all times, our students should ensure they listen and wait for directives from the government before making an inch. But also, we should also appeal to the government that immediately the students cry out to them, they should ensure they meet the needs of the student, because these students have been complaining when this war, when this thing started, immediately started, but there was no response immediately. We have to come in, spoke to the embassy, and also reach out to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I thank them for the swift response. But they should always, at all times, ensure that they listen to the cry of students immediately, not when the thing is already at burst end. Yeah, we should always take drastic action than immediate effect.
We appreciate your time. Thanks a lot. President Nigerian Students in Diaspora, Abdulrasaq Abubakar. The federal government did say that plans are on to get them out. Thanks for joining us today. Well, we're still staying with the situation in Sudan. We had reported many countries who are flying their diplomats as well as their families out of the country, from the United States, Canada to the United Kingdom. Germany's army of first 3 planes also took a number of people, about 101 for Jordan, Italy, Spain, Turkey, who has also been a key player in Sudan, gathering a number of people from Azerbaijan, Japan, China, Mexico, Yemen, many of these other countries coming together to get their people to safety away from what's happening in Sudan. Also, more than 150 people, mostly citizens of the Gulf countries, as well as Egypt, Pakistan, Canada, being evacuated by sea to the Saudi Arabian port of Jeddah. And not just that, here in Nigeria, there's been the promise of the Air Peace CEO, Alan, who says that he would like to assist with this evacuation, talking about the situation that is indeed happening there. But the federal government says it is committed to this rescue and that evacuations are beginning today. Well, let's talk to Ambassador Joe Keshi. Is the former Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He joins me for more on this. Hello, Ambassador Keshi.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining me. What's your assessment of the situation in Sudan?
First, I think it's very unfortunate that Sudan is again in the news for all the wrong reasons you can think of. And this is simply a power struggle of immense proportion. And unfortunately, it is the people of Sudan and, of course, some non-American, some foreigners that are the victims of this power struggle. And until the characters get them acts together and decide to sort to, or one, overcomes the other, I think we're going to see a long drawn-out battle in the Sudan, which is very unfortunate. And coming at this particular time, that we thought that things like this wouldn't happen in the continent, it is happening again.
Do you think
very
perhaps
unfortunate in my view?
Do you think perhaps the international community has been much more fixated with the war in Ukraine? And because we know that Sudan has been on the burner, the ICC and the United Nations.
Always laugh when I hear questions like this, because it looks as if we in the African continent, we are completely, hopeless case, that everybody has to focus on us, and only us. No, they have not taken their eyes off the ball of the African continent. They've been working behind the scenes to find a way to resolve this. But the powers that be in Sudan have simply refused to be rational or to be reasonable, the generals, I mean. And this is the consequences of their refusal to do the right thing. Remember that long before this crisis started, when they overthrew the last president, that the civilians spent months demonstrating. Many civilians were killed. The military simply refused to budge. The two parties fighting today, worked together to overthrow the last president. And it's always the case, it's like armed robbers, fighting over, their spoils, because one got probably larger than the other. And the other one decides that if I don't get enough, we're going to bring down the roof. And that's exactly what's happening today in Sudan.
The federal government says it's working hard to evacuate, citizens. Do you think that perhaps Nigeria has been caught napping again, just like what we saw earlier on with the Ukraine crisis? Some are also saying that is Nigeria losing its relevance in the African sphere?
Well, when it comes to this issue of evacuation, Yes, we're always caught napping, but the truth, of course, is that it's not totally the fault of the federal government. But I'll say this, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has a template for evacuation of Nigerians. But I don't think the state itself, the country itself, is adequately, well prepared like other countries, that if there's a problem somewhere in any part of the world, particularly in African continent, by now we should have developed that capacity or policy of how to evacuate our citizens, as quickly as we can, just like the rest of the world, people are doing all over the place. Now, telling the Nigerian students to go from Sudan to, Egypt or to another neighboring country, and there they'll be picked up and so on. Look, it's a traumatic experience, if you want to ask me. I mean, I have been involved in trying to evacuate Nigerians, and I can go on and on about the challenges of trying to do this kind of thing. But the good news, at least, is that something is being done, which is most welcomed, and we can only encourage the federal government. But going forward, a policy must be developed. The Air Force in particular must be, 100% ready, like the Air Force of other countries. We have, when you fly into Lagos or leaving Lagos at any particular time, you see a couple of C-130 planes at the tarmac there, you don't exactly know what they are doing there. These are the kind of planes that are needed to evacuate people, or that are needed in case of emergency. They should be battle ready. They should be ready at any given time to go and get people out, not asking Nigerians to trek or find their way through, through dangerous routes to other countries before they're evacuated. But the good news is at least the federal government is doing something. But the state, the country must have a template that when these things happen, this is what we must do immediately.
Ambassador Joe Keshi, we appreciate your time always on the program. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me this afternoon. Thank you. Have a good lunch.
You as well. Thanks. Well, lunchtime continues ahead of the November governorship election in Imo State. Religious, traditional, as well as political leaders across party lines from Imo North Senatorial District, popularly called Okigwe Zone, they passed a vote of confidence on the Imo State governor, Senator Hope Uzodimma. The leaders who gathered at Umweze community in Ehime Mbano in Imo North Senatorial District of the state based their stand on the Imo Charter of Equity. They also brainstormed on the November 11 governorship election and other issues that affect the development of the zone. And the next governorship election in Edo State might be over a year away, but the race to succeed the incumbent, Godwin Obaseki, is wide open to aspirants from the 3 senatorial districts. However, one group under the aegis, Esan New Era, believes that the next governor of Edo State should come from the Central Senatorial District for equity and fairness to Edo people. Addressing journalists in the state capital, Benin, Mr. Christopher Onoye insists that the Esan people have competent hands to govern Edo State. Well, you have been served at this hour. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Bye for now.